Welcome back to the Pig Trail Show. It is time for our Hog Hoops recruiting report with Kevin McPherson. And Kevin, we're going to start things off today with Kijani Wright. 6'9", 220 power forward. Arkansas is in his top 7 right now. What do you tell us about him?
He's a high-level guy, a five-star composite national number 11 player. If you've seen a photograph of him or several photographs like I am, forget the highlights. Just looking at pictures of him, he looks like he's chiseled out of the mountainside. But he's got skill at all three levels. And so, sometimes guys that are big and powerfully built, you kind of envision them being bangers and guys that play around the basket, maybe a little stiff, not very skilled. He's the contrary of that. He could step out and knock down a three. He's got nice moves around the basket. And then he's powerfully built. So, you could see why he's a top recruited guy in the country at a Windward School in Los Angeles. You talked about his measurables, and you look at the schools that are recruiting him. Southern Cal, Stanford out there in the Pac-12, but you've got programs like Texas, Michigan State, Arkansas that have made that list, Florida State. So, it's really in Kansas. So it's really a who's who of some really of the top basketball programs right now around the country. And to be on a top 7 for a class of 2022 guy, when we know we're just a few months away from the early period, it's a good sign, not only that you made the list, but what really makes it even more exciting if you're a Razorback fan is his intentions to visit. He's expressed intentions to visit. A source I talked to the day that he announced his top 7 said he's looking to come visit Arkansas later in the summer. Typically that means August. But with the grassroots shoe circuits being a little bit slow right now and finishing out their scheduling for July, which is normally a heavy month for those events, it could be that he works in a visit in July. But either way, if you can get him on campus, it certainly helps Eric Musselman and his staff have an even better shot at landing what would be one of the highest rated players ever to join Arkansas if it were to play out that way.
Well, the next guy, forgive me if I mispronounce his name, Dusan Mahoric, is from Illinois State, transfer portal right now. We know that Eric Musselman loves the transfer portal. Do you think that he might dip in and pick this guy up?
We'll see. Arkansas actually recruited him back in the fall of 2019. That kind of went through the spring of 2020. And he was at a junior college at that point, Moberly Area Community College in Missouri, not far from Arkansas. But he's a native of Belgrade, Serbia. He's been at Illinois State the past year's junior season, averaged 10 points, over 7 rebounds, shot nearly 60% from the field. Another big 6'10", big sturdy frontline guy. So I think Arkansas, what you've seen him do in the portal so far in the 3 commitments and signings are more of your backcourt players, maybe a 3-4 combo and a couple of those guys if you play small ball. But this guy would actually give Arkansas some depth on the front line with guys like Jalen Williams, Connor Vanover, and Kamani Johnson. So he's got a Zoom set up on Tuesday with Eric Musselman. He just spoke with Special Assistant Hayes Myers said he had a good 20-minute conversation with him last week, setting up that Zoom meeting. So we'll see where it goes. But a lot of big schools are actually targeting this transfer who will have 2 more years to play starting next season.
Well, let's break down this 2022 class right now that Arkansas is still talking to a number of different players. How do you feel about where they stand right now?
I think Arkansas feels really good about several top-level guys, both in-state and out-of-state. We talked about Kijani Wright. We'll see where that goes. But guys that have been on the radar for a long time, Ramel Lloyd, a top 65 player, 6'6" wing, really a combo guard. He can play the 1 through the 3. Had a really big game with Sierra Canyon the other night, 23 points, he hit 5 threes in a 3-minute span. But he's had Arkansas among his top 8. He said he's reopening his recruitment. Doesn't have a final 8 list anymore, but he did tell me he still plans to announce a commitment on June 28th, and that he still plans to visit Arkansas sometime in June. So we'll keep our eye on that. But he's out of California. Then you've got Austin Nunez, a point guard, a 6'2" point guard out of San Antonio. You've got JoJo Hunter, a 6'4" guard out of California. And then you look in-state, guys like Nick Smith Jr. out of Sylvan Hills, Khalil Ware out of North Little Rock, Darian Ford out of Magnolia. All of these are high-level top 50 rated guys. Most of these are. The Arkansas kids certainly are. And Arkansas feels good about where they stand right now with all of them. That's a lot of players, both in-state and out. And I think there's obviously some street cred that goes along with finishing ranked in the top 10 and getting to an Elite 8. I think Arkansas is feeling that momentum on the recruiting trail.
And lastly, I got to get your take on the Arkansas roster as it stands right now going into the next season. We all know that they had, like you mentioned, an incredible postseason run. Do you think they're built for that again this coming season?
I think they are. And I think some of the takeaways I see from this early 3-player haul out of the transfer portal in April. When I look at some of those pieces, you look at a Stanley Moody, 6'6" out of South Dakota, but a big rebounder and a guy that can play that 3-4 combo position. Same with DC Tony, who may be more of a wing, but I think will also offer that 3-4 versatility, and they can defend multiple positions. Obviously, Chris Likes is a 5'7" guard that's, a scorer and a guy that can facilitate. But when I look at what Arkansas is bringing back, Devo Davis, KK Robinson, JD Notae. So we've talked right there, just those names alone. We talk about the ability to put a lineup on the floor that can play a very, very much a small ball lineup. And we saw Oral Roberts have success with it. We saw obviously Baylor going all the way, and Arkansas matched up and try to go small to match up with Baylor. But I think when you then look at guys like Jalen Williams, who I think is an all SEC potential along with Devo Davis, obviously Connor Vanover, Kamani Johnson, who transferred in from Little Rock, the 6'7" that plays mostly around the basket. It's not that Arkansas will necessarily always play small ball, because you've got those guys to choose from, and you can play a little bit bigger lineup. But I just really think, because of the lack of depth on that front line so far, unless we see some changes in this portal recruiting with a guy like Desan Mahorsic, who we just talked about, I really think there's going to be more small ball lineups on the floor with a guy like a Jalen Williams or maybe a Kamani Johnson sort of playing in that 5 spot with Connor Vanover as well. So I really think, when I look at it big picture, if that's the trend and if that's the direction that Musselman wants to go, I don't see why he won't have success with it, because let's look back at last season. You had one returning player in Desi Seals with any significant experience as a Razorback. And what Musselman was able to accomplish throughout the season, especially the second half when you want to be playing your best basketball, that's what we saw. So I think he's not just getting the best available players out of the portal. He's getting players that fit a vision he has for the upcoming season and how he wants to continue to be one of the top teams, not only in the SEC, but in the country. Again, a top 10 finish, there's going to be a lot of expectations. And already Arkansas finds itself ranked in some of these Wade Turley polls among the top 5 to 15. And that's where you want to start the season and then build on it from there.
Yeah, you talk about the expectations. I know we're all excited to see how that team shapes up next season. But Kevin McPherson, always thanks for your insight. That's going to do it, though, for our Hog Hoops recruiting report. We'll talk to you next week, and we'll be back with more on the Pig Trail after the break.